And so I think this is going to be good. Tonight we're going to talk about faith. It's going to be the thread that ties all of this together. Faith is one of those things that, when it's tested, it's not necessarily a fun thing. It's not necessarily a thing that anyone has to go through. John 16 says that Jesus is speaking to the disciples, and he's telling them, in this world you're going to have trouble. And of course, he knows that they're about to face persecution like we can't even wrap our heads around. But he's telling them, in this world you're going to have trouble. He's promising them that fact. There's going to be trouble. He himself knows that he's about to go to the cross. So he's telling the disciples, in this world there's going to be trouble. But take heart in this, I've overcome the world. That applies to us today. Being a Christian is not a guarantee that now life is easy. That now you get to slip things in neutral and coast. That is not the promise. The promise is, take heart, I've overcome the world. So, as a Christian, we go through trials and tribulations and suffering. All week we've heard Jeremy and Caleb's testimony. Tonight we heard Clayton's. We've heard about Trey's. And we've heard that in the midst of all these life and death moments, God is glorified and honored. I thought I'd share just a little bit about a personal struggle that my family's endured, and many of you probably know this story, but grew up Christian, was saved at a relatively young age, went through high school, going back and forth, and kind of off the road, get back on the road, like maybe some of y'all have gone through. Going to college, and meet my wife, and we get married, and we have our first son. She was raised in a good Baptist home and grew up a Christian as well, and lived a life of faith. So here we are, two Christians, right? Like by the book, not the book, but the book. We've done everything right. We have our first son. It's a textbook pregnancy. She's a labor and delivery nurse. Could not be better. Up to the due date, he's born a week early. She knows everything that's going on. She knows what she's doing. Have a textbook delivery, perfect delivery. Doctor literally slides in on his knees to catch the baby. Get discharged 3 days later. Taken home, perfectly healthy baby born. About 24 hours later, he's kind of acting different. We don't know all the things that were going on then in that moment. We just knew things aren't right. Our baby's broken, like something's deficient here. So we go to the doctor, go to the ER. Because of his age, he's less than a week old. They end up admitting him. He hadn't had a real good bowel movement. So kind of waiting, watching these things. Well, part of what we thought was him straining to go to the bathroom were seizures that we didn't know he was having until I leave to go get bottles. And he has a seizure that could have taken his life in that moment with my wife. I get a call. My wife, many of you know her, is about even-tempered, cool, calm, and collected. She's a nurse. She's the person you want in the middle of a crazy situation because she's going to come with logic and experience and just cool. And she was screaming on the phone. One of those, I dropped bottles in the little living room, left the house in a hurry, come to the hospital to see. I'm not allowed in my baby's room because there's doctors and nurses around. So many doctors and nurses around him that I can't get to him. They're intubating him. They're hoping that he's alive well enough once he's intubated to get on the helicopter, go to OU Children's Hospital. My wife's on the floor, sobbing. And from there, we go into this next week of not knowing that life and death situation. And the whole time seeking God, praying. But at about 2 weeks old, he passed away. So God took him from here and into heaven. So when that testimony of Trey, and he was 2 weeks old, so he didn't get to live a life where he could grow up and talk to us. But when knowing that he took that last breath here and his first breath in heaven sure does give us a hope as a mother and father that we'll get to see him again one day. And that's not the end of his story. And we talk about him as a family. We talk about him, our kids know him by name. His name's Elijah James Russell. Our kids know him by name. We celebrate his life in our home. And so through that, and the ripple effect that little boy had on this world, even as brief as it was, the way that God has been glorified in those moments that we didn't even see, that are still happening to this day, the conversations that my wife's been able to have in hospital rooms with mothers who are experiencing no heartbeat or stillborn or whatnot, and she still has that call on her life to be a labor and delivery nurse. And she can go into those rooms and speak to those mothers and offer comfort if it's just a hug. But she's also doors have been open where she's been able to share the gospel and share her testimony and speak into those lives of those mothers that are experiencing one of the hardest heartbreaks that anyone can experience on this earth. The way that God's allowed me to speak and share his story, to present a gospel and a faith that so many people would justify us leaving our faith for. People don't understand how we could even believe in a God still after our son's gone. And to me, I would say, how can you not? So in this world, we're going to have tests and trials, and a lot of you are young, and maybe you haven't had a test or a trial yet. But a lot of you maybe, you have. You've been through some hard life moments, and life's knocked you around. And I know all of y'all here know these three gentlemen. So we thought tonight we'd talk a little bit about this week, what they've gone through, what their parents have gone through, how faithful God's been, what faith looks like in the middle of a hopeless situation, what faith looks like when the doctors tell you one thing, and there's this little phrase we all have gone to know well, that's "but God." And feel free to cry, because like right now, like I can feel it, like I'm trying to like push it down a little bit. But it's going to be good. So with that, it's basically going to be this conversation that we're having. I've got a message to tie this all together at the end. We're just going to do the open sign. Dr. Bill? Dr. Okay. Alright, so I've got some questions. And really, we just want this to be a conversation. Let's count. But I do have some questions, and they're also on faith. But I think the first thing, the best way to start this off, and whoever wants to start, just tell us everything that's gone on since Tuesday morning with your dad. You can tell us with your dad, with your mom. We know y'all were here, and then all the way up till today.
So Dad was not cleaning out, his gun was jammed, and so he was trying to figure out how to unjam his gun, which, mind you, my dad is the most gun careful person there is. He always reminds us gun safety every single time we even see a gun. And so Dad was, using his gun safety, and the whole gun was almost completely apart. The slide, I don't know if y'all know what that is, it's like the top of the gun was off. The clip was out, and we don't know how it happened, but just out of nowhere the gun fired. It hit him in, I guess, the stomach, the intestines, and they said he yelled for help twice. That's the last thing Dad remembers. But luckily, the first person to get to him was one of my dad's employees. He's an EMT, so that's a miracle of itself. And then another miracle is.
Real quick. So I don't know. Should we have fingers and toes on miracles?
There's not enough to count. Yeah, we don't all have.
I got it. I'll count.
And so another miracle is right next to Dad's office is where we keep all the rags. And so he instantly ran and just got a handful of rags and got to Dad's wound before there was even a drop of blood on the ground.
There wasn't drops of blood on the whole floor throughout the whole process. So.
And then then we have another employee, and he's also EMT, so he was right there beside the other one. And my dad had a customer come in who also was a firefighter, so he also knew what he was doing. And then
That's a miracle.
yeah, that's a miracle. And then
Yeah,
even crazier.
he just come in to
Right,
that's what I said.
yeah.
Get an application.
No, that was the Marine. We had a Marine come in. Actually, we had an ex-Marine, and he was coming in for a job application, and he actually had a trauma kit on him, and so they're.
I counted.
So yeah, 7 I guess right now. So he had that, and then the trauma kit, which they used and they knew how to use it, and so they couldn't bring like the stretcher inside the building because we had like a little hallway, and I guess it couldn't like fit around the corner. So all the employees like carried Dad out onto the stretcher, and they said the whole time he was fighting, which they knew was a good sign because like it didn't like I guess hit like the spine or something. Or, like,
He was fighting. He wasn't one of the guys that passed out.
Yeah, he
And
was like-
whenever you pass out, apparently it's not too good.
They said he was like throwing punches and stuff, so they're having to work out.
Actually.
So they get him to the I think I don't know what hospital it was.
They were trying to take him to Comanche County.
Oh yeah.
And another miracle was my aunt through Margie, her sister's daughter-in-law is like the people that there's a person that controls like where people's going and stuff. So the whole time,
For the helicopter?
like my dad was deciding where to go, she was relaying information to my mom, so she would know what to do. And then I don't know if you've ever been through Sterling. There's the highway that goes through Hewlin and keeps on going, and then the highway that leads into Elgin. So it's like an intersection, and then the helicopter just landed straight in the intersection, and then they get him on the helicopter, and then by the time he's on the helicopter, they go ahead and knock him out because he's fighting too hard and can't really intubate him real fast because he's starting to kind of go out of it. And then I guess when they get there, they didn't think he was going to make it through that because they said whenever someone gets that much trauma and stuff and intestines kind of blown out, they don't really make it. So
It hit an artery too. It connects to I guess they said like one of the main arteries, and they said 80% of the time people don't get off the helicopter alive. So that's another one. So we got 10. So then they rushed him right into surgery.
no scans or anything.
No scans.
They just went in blind.
And so it was a 6-hour surgery, and
He lost how many liters of blood?
9.
And then they gave him
60.
60 units, which is enough for 6 people.
60. Yeah.
So like all the blood in you, there's 6 people that's how much blood they're having for him like that. So he's just losing it. And then just through the grace of God, he got through that, and he went to kind of like a recovery room in the ICU trauma room. We get to go see him there, and he can hear us. He's starting to wake up, but can't really open his eyes, and he has the tube down his mouth, and all you can really do is that. So we just wait, come back, or sleep and stuff, and then he wakes up in the middle of the night. BJ went home with my grandparents, and then I went with my aunt because truthfully I just needed to get away for a while because it's kind of overwhelming and stuff. But Ian wanted to stay with my mom, and they came back at 5 to see him, and he was kind of like riding like this chicken scratching, so he was getting more competent. So the next day, so yesterday morning, everything's going well. They think they've already scheduled a surgery for 11, and yeah, they had 3 doctors already ready, and the last doctor, he was in surgery, and his surgery kind of kept getting pushed out, so it was past 11, 12, 1, 2. At 2, the surgery finishes, but like as soon as that surgery finishes, they send a patient into a room, so we have to wait for a room. So we wait for probably 6 hours, something like that, because
Because the doctor, the surgeon also had to rest a little bit, so.
So
He was 8 when.
we just hang out with Dad. He's pretty tough, but you can see that he's pretty scared. We gave him comfort. There were prayers like crazy. His vitals, everything were looking good. And then, so my mom, me, and Ian went down to like this open air space kind of in the middle of the hospital where it's outside just to catch our breath. We prayed and stuff, and then as soon as we open our eyes, BJ comes running down the stairs with a phone, and it's cash sides. And so we sit down there. He asked if anything's going good, and we said, yeah, it's going good. And through that, my aunt comes running downstairs and saying, they just ruled the name. We missed him. So we were kind of nervous, but we knew everything was going to be all right. And then,
so I was stressed all day long. I felt like the surgery couldn't come sooner, but yet again, I didn't want it to come because I knew, I felt like it was gonna give me like 10 times the stress I already had, but it actually like eased my nerves so much just knowing that it's all gonna, come to a finish in a little bit. So it actually eased my nerves a whole lot.
So apparently, what my aunt was saying was when they were rolling him out, the doctors looked ready and stuff. And they said, my mom gets a call saying he's in there, they're about to start. And then she gets another call that says his vitals are okay. So both those calls, we were freaking out like something had just happened. And so after that, we just waited, and the doctors said nothing. But here's number 11. Another miracle is my my aunt has a friend who was, I forgot, anesthesiologist or something like that. And they thought he was going to be in the room, but he actually wasn't. But the way their systems, he could check on the updates on Dad. So 2 or 3 times throughout the day or that surgery, we were getting updates from like inside, and one y'all got that said he's in surgery doing well, and then the other one is he's about done, and then we see him coming out, everything's good, ready to start the recovery process. So while they were in there, they checked his bowels because, oh my bad, first surgery he lost so much blood that they really had to stop, and he lost so much blood that he lost all blood flow to his left leg. Yeah.
They stuck a balloon.
But he still had no blood flow.
But they stuck a balloon to his heart, and because he had such a bad blood clot, but that ended up cutting the circulation onto his leg, and they said it was dead for an hour to 2 hours. So
And then
he has 2 big like cuts down his leg to try to help blood like flow through his leg a little more, and then they were afraid he would lose his bowels. Luckily, the surgeons were great, and that's not like a case that we have to worry about no more.
Through the surgery last night, they were able to get that. They checked on the leg. Leg had perfect blood flow, and then the bowels were perfect, and then here we are now. Just he's awake
and then so I guess I don't know what time it is right now. I don't even know what day it is, to be honest with you. But anyways, Thursday. So Tuesday, that's the day. Okay. So Tuesday, Dad was able to ride us a little bit. You could tell he was out of it because he was like riding down, but like down by his hip. but that's the only way he could communicate with us. And he asked like how bad it was, and then he was like he's sorry, which we don't know why he's sorry because it was just a freak accident. But just to show his sense of humor was still there, he asked if he could rub some dirt on it, which was pretty cool. Yeah, so.
But he was giving all glory to God. He even said he's the only reason why I'm here right now. And then you go every time I was in there, like if I said something, he could move his hands and stuff.
He was writing to us, and every time like a doctor would leave with some kind of news.
Oh, no, we're at like 18? 18?
So number 19 is
So he was able to write to us, and this is what I consider a miracle. I guess yesterday the sermon was like #ButGod, and that's what Dad would write, not even knowing the sermon. Every time like a doctor would walk out with some kind of news, he would always write "but God," like saying God's greater than any surgeon, and that's what we kept on saying. Was Dad's a fighter, the doctors are great, but God's greater and He's stronger. So
we found out yesterday. The bullet was placed so perfect. It was in between two vertebrae.
A miracle.
yeah.
The least too important, and it was lodged in between there, and it shattered the top one just from energy. Didn't hit it or anything. But if it would have been 2 inches above that, my dad would be paralyzed for the rest of his life. So that's how blessed my dad is. So.
But they said the only thing it affects is
the drop toe.
They call it like drop foot, drop toe, something like that. But it's just when he walks, he goes to drag his foot, so they give him like a brace that kind of like springs his foot up when he's walking. But that said, that's just a short-term thing, so nothing long-term.
That's pretty much the story of that. And then he has one more surgery. Could be tomorrow, could be in 2 weeks. Nothing big. He's just kind of open. They still have the gashes in his
He
legs.
still has a little cut down. That's not fully
All
closed.
they're gonna do is just go in and close him up, and then we'll be able to start the recovery process.
But last news we got was he's going to be sent into a different room to where my mom can stay with him. So that's like the biggest accomplishment. And then another thing I just wanted to say is how, like, I guess much of a fighter my mom is. It all like just all like came upon her in like a matter of seconds, and throughout it all she's able to manage work still, because that's, I guess, what's paying for this. And then so she's able to manage work, and then she has just been a comfort to everybody, even like other family members. So
Even though she needs to figure out
she's
she's still
comforting
one
other people.
comforting.
Yeah.
She's a warrior. So that's the story how it's going down right now, and then it'll continue to get better.
So real quick, I guess a spoiler, I don't know, Carl just texted me literally right before this, and that he's in the room.
He said
He's in his room.
Yeah.
Tonight will be the last night my mom won't stay in there. She wants to get my dad's.
She will.
Wants to get my dad's.
And then a personal thank you to y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all have been praying for us. But I was in the room with my dad and my mom, because they only allowed 2 people back there, and y'all guys were singing "When I'll Fight on My Knees," that song, and Mama just clicked on Laura's text message and just seen it was a video, so played the video and had the volume turned up, and they started singing, and my dad just like. But I just like, as much as he could lift his arms were tied down, but he lifted his arms.
Y'all guys broke me on that.
Yeah. So thank y'all for that, because it just,
God,
yeah,
everything.
it showed that y'all guys were playing for me, which we knew were, but so thank y'all for that.
Thank y'all. That's how it's going down right now.
We'll still. So at any point, if you can't get something else, we'll still keep the miracle counter
Yeah.
going. So the injuries were to his large small intestine.
Yeah.
And stomach.
And stomach.
Stomach and then his leg.
His leg and then the
Bowels.
voice and the vertebrae.
Yeah.
I mean, if
And
you're talking about
bowels
all
and
the-
vertebrae.
So if you're talking about all the things.
Oh,
that-
drop
So
it.
tell them real quick
Another,
about.
sorry.
No, no.
Another miracle is they thought he was, they said worst case scenario, I forgot, they call it like a colostomy. They said that's worst case scenario, and they literally said that everything was perfect, so it's not
And
even.
his bowels were just like a regular person's. There was nothing wrong with him.
The doctor just said that his bowels were beautiful. Never heard that.
23, I'd like to have 2 more though. Brooke has been a miracle.
Yeah.
They all have like the best. All to go through this.
Yeah.
And then you 3, he has like the best 3 sons to
Thank you.
stay with him. So you are at 25. So 25.
So again, like you'll think of more.
Oh, and all the surgeons were Christians, and like with the doctor, I was in there with my uncle, and he said like all the surgeons were, they like prayed and said, let his hands work through it. So
I mean, that is probably a miracle
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like you're a surgeon.
I could keep on stacking up. I have a few more to say, but I'll
yeah,
say it.
you gotta
Okay,
get
okay.
get this.
Yeah.
But I did want to point out just so
Yeah.
just because I know a lot of sponsors do, but just so how many surgeons did he have for the surgery? Four.
They had one for like his vertebrae, one for his intestines, which that was one I guess that was in the surgery. But then another one,
He was the best.
they said he's the best in
OU medical.
OU medical.
And that's when y'all.
That's when we waited on.
Yeah, and so they waited on him. So that was I guess another blessing in disguise. And then one
Bowels and
bowels,
legs.
one for his legs. So.
You
I
start-
got him to do it.
So you can
Start
start
your
your
questions.
questions.
Okay.
I'll hold you up and.
No. Okay, so y'all are here for Monday, Tuesday.
24 hours. 24 hours.
Yeah.
By the time we got to the hospital, I counted, it was about 24 hours.
Okay, so for 24 hours. So, you were here long enough to hear one message from Jeremy, and then you were here for that morning. So, and you've gotten updates from us, so how would you say, or how have you seen, the message, and obviously include tonight, but the message from Jeremy and Caleb, how have you seen that woven into this experience? Y'all can eat. I mean, y'all can all serve your own.
For me, he was, as you can tell, Jeremy has an amazing testimony about like his kids, and the first thing I thought of when Dad was shot was Caleb, because how much a fighter Caleb is, and I just thought Dad is also a fighter, so if I know Caleb can get through it, so can Dad. And then I thought of like how this whole thing, like with their son dying and Caleb's accident, how they all said it's brought them closer to God. I can definitely tell that's been a thing, because it's literally been nonstop praying, and we've seen how many prayers people have just given us.
My
So,
dad's stepbrother, he, for the first time in his whole life, besides going to a funeral, for this reason, I went to church, and whenever he went to my dad, he told him that, and my dad said he'd do it all over again.
just so you just
so
get
he
back
could
to
do
church. But I guess just how their story has impacted me on how something traumatic happened, but that don't mean that you should lose your fight, or your faith.
Yeah.
Because without faith, I don't think Dad would be here.
I remember last night in the surgery, I was walking with my mom, and we we were just walking, and I was kind of calm, and I said, I don't know where I'd be without God and my salvation, because I couldn't imagine not having it, not having anything, not having a solid rock to lean on. It just be like falling over and doing nothing, hoping for the best. But through prayer and stuff, I was able to fight for my dad. And all y'all's prayers fought for my dad. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it was a miracle counter. I think it was a miracle that that message is being preached simultaneously to the trial within the literal situation and circumstance that you guys on.
I know we weren't here for this message, but for y'all guys to have the "but God" message, and then for Dad not even knowing that that was one of y'all's message, and that's what he's just was saying the whole time. It was a miracle. All glory to God, because without it, like I said, I don't think we'd be sitting right here right now. Like we would all be sobbing somewhere else.
So you said fight and faith.
Yeah.
So how would you define faith?
So for me, I was in my bed, actually my aunt's bed. I was just in there sleeping. I was chilling there. I just got done reading her Bible. I was in a certain passage, and it said, He knows all things and what it's going to be. So I instantly went into prayer, and I said, so much I try and hold on to, and I try and take from you, and I try and take the reins, God, but especially on this, it's up to you. I'm out of it, and let your word be done through you. So.
Faith.
So the same night that Corey was talking about, I went back home and grabbed all this stuff. So I had my phone and I got on my Bible app, and I read "Iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another," and that made me think, as long as we stick together, we'll be fine.
Wow. How'd that make you feel? I mean, we're not going by feeling, but did that encourage you? That
Yes, like everything.
reassure you?
It is crazy just being able to read and hear from, truly be quiet with him, just like we are in quiet time here, just truly listen to his voice and how much peace you're at. Like Cody was saying, you're either headed into a valley, you're in a valley, or you're just coming out of one. Being in the valley, if you have Christ as your solid rock, there's no greater peace than that.
Faith, I guess I'm not good at definitions, but
Faith.
we believe, I guess we put faith, that's the word I'm using, I'm trying to describe faith. We had to put it all on God, because no matter if it's the best surgeon, if it's the very best case scenario, there's always something that can happen throughout it all. So just putting faith and, like Corbin said, leaning on God, who's like this solid rock. That's all I guess we can really do, because something can change super fast, but we gotta believe that God's there and God is willing to, well, not willing to, but God is amazing, and God has ordained this to happen from the beginning. So we don't need to be surprised on what's happening, because it's already planned.
So Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean hope as in willy-nilly, or I sure do hope it rains tomorrow, or I hope it doesn't rain. It's not. It's putting faith in action. It's putting what you're hoping and what you're putting your trust in. So it's the assurance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So you're putting your faith in God and trusting that the things you can't see, the internal wounds and things that have gone on in surgery, you're putting your faith and hope in God instead of not necessarily what the doctor's reports are, like your dad was writing down, but God. You're getting a report, but God. And so that's where you're putting your faith in. So, I know this is gonna be hard, but if you were to think about faith last week versus faith today, how has this changed faith?
I have realized, like Corbin said, I realized I've been trying to take the reins too much, and so for this to happen and it be out of my control, what's happening, I've just had to put all my faith that God will give me, I guess, back my dad in perfect condition. So for me, trying to kind of guide how my life has been to now just take it, because I've realized trying to not steer off the path of Jesus, but trying to, maybe say, let's take maybe a little baby step over here is a huge step away from God anyway. So just giving him the reins back, saying, I can't do this. I feel like I've noticed that way more.
That's good. Corbin?
You said it perfectly.
Yeah. A situation like this definitely doesn't go or leave you unchanged, right? So it's going to change.
I think it woke me up in a way more to how small I am compared to God. Like last week, before my dad's tragedy, I really haven't had something tremendous like this happen, and I was kind of at like the mountain and how to live on the mountain, and then you go through that valley and you really have to lean on something and put your faith in it, because you can't do anything besides put faith in God, and that he'll bring you out of it.
How would this look like? I know Corbin, you talked a little bit about it, putting a little more thought to it. So, how would this look like without faith? How do you think this would look without faith? We've got guys and girls in here that may still be questioning some things, questioning some decisions that they may need to make.
So, without faith, I don't see how I could go through this right now. I don't see how I could really take a breath, because all I would be thinking about is, he's gone, he's gone, he's gone, or he could be gone, and just stressing out. But me putting my faith in something greater, and how just small I am, and how powerful our God is, and just that thought, and him just holding you in it. So I had, throughout the surgery, my dad, his cousin or something like that, had this cross, and it was like a comfort cross. It was made out of wood, and it was like all shaped, and you could like grip your hand on it. So I was gripping it, and I was just looking at it, and I was like, the way I'm holding this cross right now in my hand is how the God of the universe is holding my dad and all of us. So what can I do? Me just being this small, but a God that big can do it.
Like, Corbin's kind of nailed it. Without faith, I feel like it would be harder on us, because we've had a God to lean on, and without it, I feel like we'd be so stressed. But now I feel like, since we do have faith, we are able to have more comfort, because we know it's all already planned. So we know we might not understand why, but God already knows why, and He has a perfect plan. So without that faith, I feel like Corbin said, it would just be a super stressful situation.
Without faith, I don't think we'd be here today. I think we'd still be sitting in the hospital. I think if we wouldn't have had faith, the devil would have wanted, well, he would have wanted what he got, or would have got what he wanted, because we all just like stayed together and kept praying.
And without all the prayers, this might sound horrible, but I'm gonna say it, 'cause I'm being truthful with y'all. I don't know if Dad would still be here right now. So, thanks for the prayers.
So,
Miracle on, but
you're gonna add that one to the board?
Yeah.
Alright, so, we'll be about done, but, so, if somebody's sitting out here that's on the fence, is there one last thing you'd say about that decision that they may be wrestling with regarding their own faith?
Don't hold back, because I was saved at a relatively young age, but I remember some of the feelings of loneliness and all about me and stuff like that. But the second you put your faith in something greater than you, and that the God of all creation came down for our sins, died, and rose again 3 days later for me, and to cover my shame and stuff like that. So, just thinking about that, I would hesitate. I would jump all over that, because, like Jeremy said the first time I was here, there's 2 doors and you only go down one path. So, I would choose the path of life, even though it's not the wide path, it's the narrow path. Always stay on the narrow path.
You know God. It's a God.
You don't wanna add anything to it? TJ, you got anything?
Yeah, I know we can't tell you what to believe or tell you what, but it's a high suggestion that you put your faith in God, because I don't know, I don't feel like we.
This is an Ian recommendation.
Yeah, Ian recommendation. I don't feel like we'd be here right now, so.
You be here? Alright, I'll have you final thought.
I could add another miracle.
Okay, another miracle.
That they literally had the best doctors they did. They literally picked out the best doctors for him. Like they were Christian, but they were what they said, like literally the best doctors we could have. And then the nurses, they adored Dad. And then another miracle is, y'all guys might not see it as this, but Dad hates doctors, and he is not fighting them right now. So that's another miracle in of itself.
you want to hear a joke? Sure. So on another note, whenever he came out of surgery, we were talking to one of the surgeons, and Corbin was telling her thank you, and he said, "Go Boomer Sooner," and she looked at him and said, "Roll Tide."
Alright,
Grandma.
I gotta owe you better. I owe you better.
Corbin said Boomer Sooner, and the girl said Roll Tide. I know.
But she was from Alabama.
Alright, I thought